All right, so thank you for being here. As you can see, I'm not alone for this one. I have my Uncle Matt, who is also my best friend in the whole world. He's been by my side since day one, quite literally.
Literally.
So
Literally.
um,
I was 10 when he was born.
there's he has a very very interesting story, which I really wanted to share with y'all. Let's talk. Let's start at kind of at the beginning. You were raised in church,
Somewhat.
somewhat.
Somewhat. I mean, I guess up until the age of 3, I was at church, and my parents actually took me, and, then there was a falling out, if you will, between my dad and the church that they were at the time, and kind of put a sour taste in my folks' mouths, so they quit going. However, your mom, my sister, really was the one responsible for taking me to church as a kid growing up. Probably up until I'd say the 6th grade, your mom took me to church. So, after that, of course, crazy chain of events. Dad falls off the roof, breaks both legs. I was 12, I think, when that happened. Kind of crazy for a 12-year-old to have to kind of step up and be the man of the house.
Yeah.
But, at that point, I was the only one living with mom and dad, of course, because I'm so much younger than your mom and my brother. But, after the recovery process of that, we ended up at Bel Air. Spent all of my middle school, high school years there, and then some craziness happened, and I'm sure we'll get into that here in just a little bit, but needless to say, I'm now back home.
Yeah. So you graduate from high school. You have a little bit of college experience, right?
Professional college dropout. I'm one of the only people you meet that's dropped out of college 4 separate times. But, I'm telling you right now, college is not for everybody. And that's okay.
Yeah. You're right.
Well, we can actually kind of pick up at the graduate high school thing.
Yeah.
As you know, and y'all don't know, I actually teach the 18 to 25-year-old couples class. Well, we're a couples class now. The reason I wanted to teach that class is because that's such a demographic that we lose people in the church. The minute they get out of high school, mom and dad aren't making them go to church anymore, and so they don't go.
Yeah.
I was that kid.
Yeah.
I was the one that got out of high school. Mom and daddy didn't make me go. It's time for me to live my own life and make my own stupid mistakes, which I made plenty of. And yeah, so that kind of started a whole downward spiral that I think we're about to get into talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, 18, 19, 20, did a lot of stupid stuff. Anything you could do before your 21st birthday, I had done.
And by this time, you've already been smoking, right?
Cigarettes, I started smoking at the age of 12.
Yeah.
Of course, me being the smart guy that I thought I was, thinking mom and dad don't know. Mom and dad knew. Kids, trust me, you cannot hide that smell. But yeah, so, I started smoking at the age of 12, kind of nowhere near like I do now, which admittedly, I do still smoke.
Yeah.
It's a vice, but, addictions are real and they do have a hold on people.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, all this time smoking other stuff, being stupid, thinking I was cool, getting with the ladies and all that. And, so 21, moving towards 22, starting at 19, I had been getting my hair cut at this certain salon, barbershop, if you will, and I'd kind of made friends with the girl that cut my hair. Never really thinking anything would become of it. She was the girl that cut my hair. That was probably 2006, 2007. Later in the year, about around this time, her and I became a little bit more than friends. It was a whirlwind romance, if you will. Got married the following May, and that was 2008.
Yeah. So, you're married, first marriage, right?
One of two.
You go to church with us for a little bit out in Blanchard.
Well,
right?
Even before that, I mean, y'all hopped, I hopped.
Yeah.
Started at, church out in Elm Grove.
Yeah.
Went from that church to the one out in Blanchard that you spoke of. This whole time, I'm singing in the worship bands and in the choirs. I'm actually on stage, doing solos and all this mess. I'm teaching classes and, trying to create a young adults class at the Northwoods area. All the while, nobody knew, behind the scenes Matt, if you will.
Yeah. So y'all are married for a minute.
8 years.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And there comes a point when you, in your life, it's like, I'm done with God, I'm done with church, I'm done.
I actually went to a point, and I'm not going to say the actual word. I used to back then, where I literally got to a point where I said, F God. F, use your imagination. That was the point where things got really, really dark. Lost my grandpa.
Yeah.
Christmas Day. Man practically raised me. I have 2 memorial tattoos, and they're my grandparents.
Yeah.
The big pieces on my back. And so when he passed, that was kind of one thing. And then 6 months later, my grandmother passed. And at that point, I was done. I'm like, I don't get it. I don't understand why this God that people say, loves me and is always going to be there for me. Why would he take like the 2 most important people next to my parents away from me?
Yeah.
And I hated him. I was done. I borderline tell people that I used to be an atheist. That's incorrect, because atheistic people, or the atheist thing, is a belief in nothing. I believed in God. I knew that there was a God. I just hated his guts and wanted nothing to do with him. So that's kind of where I went. So, growing up in church, always knowing the right answers, leading worship, doing all these things. Anytime the doors were open, I was there, going through seminary-style classes at the church, having church functions and Bible studies and get-togethers at my house, to the point where I'm like, you know what? F him. I want nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
I'm done.
So you're completely done with God. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
This was really kind of the turning point of everything, I think, where the family really started realizing.
Yeah.
Your sister has actually told me that I was told by my mom or somebody, that she actually had these fears and was like crying and praying, afraid that if I died, I'd go to hell.
Yeah.
I literally told your dad, he was in there trying to talk church to me, and I literally told him, look, man, save your breath. I want nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when I say that it was to that point, to the point that the people that actually took me to church, I'm staring you in the face and going, do not talk to me about that. I don't want any part of it. I mean, that's how far down that rabbit hole I had actually gone.
I mean, my parents have been married 10 plus years at this point, right? Probably closer to 15.
Yeah, your dad posted on Facebook today that today is the anniversary of their first date. Shout out. 30 years ago today, they had their first date at the Red River Revel.
Wow.
Facebook is a wonderful thing for
So
remembering things.
at this point, they've been married probably over 15 years.
See, this was
You've
probably, they were married in 94? Probably 20 years, yeah.
20 years? And so you've been knowing them for 2 decades.
I don't actually, I look back and do not remember a time that your dad is not in my life.
Yeah.
I honestly cannot think back that far.
So
I was 7 when they got together.
So to look at this at family at this point, it's not even really an in-law. It's family who's been there for 2 decades, for the majority of your life.
Yep.
Right? And you look at family and you say, don't waste your breath because I'm done.
Yep.
I wake up one day getting ready to go to class, and it's real early, right?
Must have been about 7:15, 7:30.
And I remember getting a call from you.
I do remember calling you. You were actually the first person I called. When he says best friend, I mean, it's the truth. When all this went down, woke up, went to bed kind of knowing it was coming, woke up, and my current wife at the time told me she was leaving, which, there was kind of writing on the wall. I should have seen it, but, truth be told, when you're living in a marriage and God is not at the forefront, it's going to fail anyway. So, I mean, looking back, hindsight, they say, is always 20/20.
Yeah.
So looking back, I see, where the faults were. I understand them. But, no, that was, I want to say that was the 3rd or 4th of January. I was on the way to work and called you and said, yep, she's leaving. And I was pretty much destroyed. I was never
Rock
thought that
bottom.
never thought that I would be the one to be divorced.
Yeah.
So, but it happened, and 2 days later, at the company that I was at this point again, not in church. Don't have a church home. Really had nowhere that I wanted to go. January 7th, 2016. Must have been a Thursday because that Sunday was the 10th. I do remember that.
Yeah.
I was in my owner's office, and I was explaining, I was breaking down to him, and not really at the breaking point just yet.
Yeah.
But he asked me a question that literally punched me in the face. It's a question that, for the first time in my life, I did not have an answer for. Mainly because I don't think I'd ever been asked this question. The owner of my company looked at me, one of the strongest men of faith I ever knew, or have ever known. He looked at me and said, "When's the last time you prayed?" And I stopped, and I tried to think. Because again, going back to the atheistic Matt, the thought of prayer made me sick.
Yeah.
Sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember the Christmas that I was asked to pray in front of everybody, and I said, nope.
Nope.
I wanted nothing to do with it. So, for him to ask this, and for it to hit me like it did, I told him, I said, at that point, I broke down. I said, I don't know. I can't tell you because I don't know. And he said, hold on, I'm going to make a phone call. And he made a phone call. At the point, I didn't know who he was calling until he got on the phone. And he said, Randy, which is pastor, and he will tell everybody and their mother that he has known me since I was in the womb. That's one of his favorite things to say. Said, Randy, I've got Matt here, and this is what's going on. This is what's happening. I really think you need to talk to him. And he was about to walk into Wushu. He was about to go teach, and he stopped what he was doing, and he said, you send him to me right now. And I remember leaving work, going there, sitting on the couch, and him and I started talking, and it led to the prayer of salvation, which, truth be told, I'd prayed probably 3-4 times. I've walked the aisle 3 or 4 times, and this might catch flack. There might be some controversy over what I'm about to say, but the truth is the truth. walking an aisle, saying a prayer, and getting put underwater did not save me. Because every time I did that, there was no heart change.
Yeah.
There was nothing. The next day, I was right back to normal old Matt. I mean, to the point where, again, I got to the point that I was at. And I'm sorry, but to get to that point...
You were all head knowledge up to this
I knew
point.
what to say and what to do.
Yeah.
I knew the routines. I've been acting for over 20 years. I'm really good at it.
Yeah.
And so I could play the part.
Yeah.
I could put on my fake smile on Sunday mornings. I could go up there and sing and nobody would know, but this was the first time that all the chips were on the table. And at that point, I prayed. And my prayer of salvation was more of a take me back.
Yeah.
I've gotten so far away, take me back. It wasn't until a few weeks later when all that was doing was growing. That passion was growing. That heat, that fire that had started was getting more. I was reading, I was doing, I was looking, I was in church, I was doing this, I was doing that. Everything led and pointed back to one direction, that I realized that all those times that I had walked an aisle, all those times that I had said a half-hearted prayer, all the 3 times that I had been dunked underwater, because truthfully, that's all it was. I was dunked. Weren't real.
Yeah.
Because walking an aisle, saying a feel-good prayer with no heart change is not salvation.
Yeah.
And I realized at that point that the salvation that I had received on January 7th, 2016 was salvation for the first time.
Yeah.
At 29 years old. After growing up in church and doing everything by the book, knowing the right answers and doing everything, that at 29 years old, salvation became real.
Yeah.
Jesus became real. That desire and that relationship became real.
Yeah.
There wasn't a moment that if I stopped, that my phone and my Bible app wasn't open. I mean, from, I think in a 2-month time span, I read the New Testament cover to cover 4 times. And wrote it. And typed it. Because I needed to know. I wanted to know. I wanted the answers. I needed the answers. I needed to be closer to Him. And that, again, was proof. And even now, looking back, this was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Almost 7 years ago. I still see that turning point. And they say when salvation is real, you can actually put a date to it. You know for a fact. You know when your life changed.
Yeah.
And the fact that I know January 7th, 2016, at Bel Air South Campus, that is when my life changed.
Yeah.
So, it went from playing and faking and hating and all that to an actual real relationship.
Yeah. And so, since then, God has dramatically turned your life around. Just a little bit. Since then, you're now married to Heather.
I am. Funny story. We'll tell that one too. Sorry. I get long-winded. Jackson and I are related. Jackson and I get an invite. Or actually, I get an invite. Where was I going? I squirreled. Oh, Heather. Don't do drugs, kids. Well, I get invited to this revival. My dad sends me a text and he goes, "Hey, Bel Air is having a revival." And I'm like, sweet. Because, at this point, stuff like that's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm watching Stephen Furtick on Facebook. Or YouTube. I'm watching the Code Orange Revival. I'm falling in love with Furtick and Lusko and Gray. And I'm falling in love with all these pastors and, things that I never thought I'd be in love with. And Dad sends me a text and he's like, "Great preacher, you need to come to the revival tonight." And I'm like, sweet, I'm there.
Yeah.
Jackson, we're going to a revival tonight. Okay.
Okay.
Basically.
Yeah.
So we go. We're sitting, actually on our pew.
Yeah, like the third row.
Third row. If you don't know, Baptists do have assigned seating. That's a joke, guys. I kind of nudge Jackson and I'm like, "Hey man, you see that girl up in the choir there?" And I point to my now wife. And he goes, "Yeah." I was like, "Dude, man, when I was 14, I had the biggest crush on her. Her brother and I have been friends since I was 14. So after church, I walk over to go see her, give me a hug, just catch up. She invites me to a Bible study at her house. the following Thursday. And I'm like, sweet. I'm always looking to get into some more of that. And it was actually A.W. Tozer's Knowledge of the Holy. Is what they were going through. Great study to learn, all of the attributes. God's not just love. He's not just this. He is all of these things. And if you really want a good book to read
that one.
A.W. Tozer, Knowledge of the Holy. It's very deep, so wear your waders. But, so one thing led to another. We started, a friendship, which is really all it was. We ended up both finding each other attractive and started spending a little bit more time together, and eventually became boyfriend and girlfriend, and proposed and got married, and now we have Atlas. So the coolest rock star name kid you'll ever have. Her name is Atlas Rose. But yeah, found a God-fearing, God-loving, God-appreciating, spiritual, knows more about the Bible than I do woman.
Yeah.
And one that is willing and wants me to lead. And so, which is, very uncommon, especially in the world that we live in today. And it's not a knock. I believe that, women do have the same rights as men. And if the man can't stand up and be the leader of the house, then the woman needs to step up and do it.
Yeah.
Not saying that your place is the kitchen. This is 2022. We're way past that. Actually, my place is the kitchen because I do most of the cooking. But I like cooking. So
he's an awesome cook.
So you see all these things. You see from 2016 to 2017 to 2018, 2017, or in that area, Heather and I get together.
Even in that 10-year time frame, God is
dramatically. That's dramatic and drastic. It's a really good word, guys. Look it up.
Changed your life and has done
changed
this amazing.
My life, changed my worldview, changed everything. I've told you this, and I tell everybody that I talk to that sometimes the only way that God can get your attention is to put you flat on your back.
Yeah.
Where the only choice and the only way you have to look is up. That's what it took for me. Some people get it. Some people are, young, they accept Christ at a young age, and they live that life. Their path to God is like this right here.
Yeah.
Mine went this way, and then this way, and then this way, and then dipped, and went up, and went down. But the end result was the same.
Yeah.
What I can do now, and what I love most about this journey, I talk about the past in a joking manner, about the things that I've done and the things that I've seen. And, yes, I am covered in tattoos that I regret a couple of. Definitely my hands. But I look back and I say, man, God allowed all these things to happen so that I could reach people. So that I could talk to people that are going through things that either I've gone through or that I'm going to go through.
Yeah.
Or that they're going to go through. I've been there.
Yeah.
And so that allows me to be able to say, look, life sucks. I get it. Been there, done that. I've got the battle scars to prove it. I had the t-shirt, but I lost it. I've got the battle scars. Those stick around a lot longer. But in that, I'm now able to counsel married couples.
Yeah.
Biblically counsel married couples. I've done a couple of them. And say, look, I know what it takes to have a bad marriage. Been there. I know what it takes to have a good marriage. And the answer is Jesus.
Yeah. Having
him in the middle. It's so cliche, and truthfully, if I'm being 100% honest, I hate what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
The pyramid thing is so cliche to me.
Yeah.
It really is. With the husband and wife on the bottom two rungs and Jesus at the top.
Yeah.
The closer you get to Jesus, the closer you get to each other. It's so true, but because it's so cliche, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Same reason I don't like coffee cup scriptures.
Yeah. It blows my mind when I think about God's grace and His mercy and His love, His unconditional love at that point. It blows my mind sometimes, and I can't help but think of some of my friends and family who their stories, who I know all too well, look like yours. You in a decade's time, in 10 years, you go from hating God, not just hating God, but even to the point, like you said a little while ago, saying, F God.
Mm-hmm.
You went from that point, and 10 years later, you're not just a Christian and on fire for God, but you're also like a deacon at church.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the fact that God can use anybody is, and your story is a really good example, and he doesn't push you away, but he keeps trying to draw you in and draw you close and show you his grace and his love and his mercy. It blows my mind.
I'll tell you
in the best way.
I'll tell you what blows my mind, and I really want your audience and whatnot to hear this.
Yeah.
Even when I hated him, he loved me.
Amen.
Even when I didn't want to be near him, he was with me.
Yeah.
When I wanted to be as far away as possible, he wanted to be as close to me as he could get.
Yeah.
And that's what blows my mind. The fact that in the darkest times where I was a terrible person, he was still there. He was still trying. He never left my side. He was always there with me. He didn't take my grandparents. My grandparents went home.
Yeah.
I can see that now. I have the promise of seeing them again. I'm thankful for the things that they instilled in me. The memories of sitting up at night and watching them read their Bible together. The life lessons and things that I was taught by them. The respect and the manners and the things that I was taught by them. The work ethic that I was taught by my father.
Yeah.
The ability to persevere that I was taught by my mother. Those that don't know my mom, she is probably one of the strongest people that I've ever met in my life. I always say my dad's my hero, but my mom's my rock.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be like my dad, but I've always known that I can go to my mom with anything. Being able to now look back and say, yes, I was terrible. In my mind, life sucked. All of these things, blah, blah, blah. God was there the whole time. And that's why, one of the things I hear most is, well, I'm just waiting on God to do this. I'm just waiting on God to do that. What if he's waiting on you?
Yeah.
That was the whole thing. He was just waiting on me. He knew that I had to get to a certain point, and that when I got to that point, it was going to be ripe for the picking, as a terrible thing to say, but he knew that my heart was going to be at a point, and I was going to be at a place where I was so low that I had no other option.
Yeah.
And I do not want people to get to that point. That's why I pushed for this class. That's why, I want to be involved in these kids' lives that are, in that age group of where I made my first mistake.
Yeah.
And got out of church and thought that I could do life without God. I want them to see the importance of, yes, you're out of high school. Yes, mom and daddy don't make you go anymore. But you need to.
Yeah.
You need to realize why. And the why is, life is going to suck no matter what, but it's so much easier when you have Christ with you. You can either have a sucky life without God, and it just sucks, or you can have a sucky life with God and know that there's comfort in it. Know that every storm brings forth flowers.
Yeah.
You can't have a beautiful garden without rain. The thing is, do you come out of that season a better person, or do you come out of that season and just continue to go down?
Yeah.
And I never want to see anybody continue to go down. I want to see people turn. I want to see people realize. I can tell you the names of all 4 people that I've led to Christ.
Yeah.
Only 4. But that's 4 less people going to hell. Because of those salvations, that is why I do what I do.
Yeah.
That is why I teach what I teach. And like I said, my kids know, and my wife gets so mad at me because I call them my kids, but let's face it, guys, I'm 36. The oldest one in my class is Jackson, and he's 25. So, they are kids to me. I mean, I've got a whole life, basically, before they were born. But, if I can show them in a way that doesn't make them see me as anything other than someone who understands.
Yeah.
I'm not fake.
Yeah.
You don't have to be this Christian that's smiling all the time, that's happy all the time.
Life is real.
I mean, I was in a bad mood today, you know, and on the way here I said, Lord, I'm about to go in front of a camera. You know, I need you to help me get my spirit right.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we all have bad days. We all say things we shouldn't. We all do things we shouldn't. But the beautiful thing about it is one, repentance. If we go to God and repent for it, turn away from it and don't do it anymore, the forgiveness is there. It's like it never even happened.
Yeah.
But for people to know that we are real people, we're not fake people. You're not doing this, Jackson, because it's something that you're pretending to be.
Yeah.
I'm not sitting here talking as though these are things that I'm pretending that I am, or these are things that I'm faking just to get likes and views and blah blah blah. This is real talk.
Yeah.
This is bottom line real talk, and that's what is exciting, is the platform of real talk and real change.
Yeah. I agree with that, and I thank God for the work that He's done in your life, and where I see you now compared to where you were. I can truly say that you are my best friend, and not just in a earthly sense, but also in a spiritual sense as well. So thank you so much for being.
Thank you. I feel
Here
like I took
today.
over your show today, and I'm sorry.
It's cool. It's cool. The whole thing is I wanted them to know kind of your story, and for if anybody is out there and you've going through something that you've heard today. First, know that you're not alone. There are people out there who have been in your shoes, who understand more than you might realize. And secondly, and most importantly, know, as you stated, that even in your deepest, darkest moments, when you want nothing to do with God, God wants everything to do with you. And He loves you more than you can understand, more than you can fathom.
I'm going to leave it with one last final thought. This just popped in. And I'm just going to look right here and I'm going to speak directly. That way, if anybody is within the sound of my voice, I really call it a God thing. Alcohol is not your answer. Drugs are not your answer. Multiple partners is not your answer. Addiction is not your answer. To a sense. Trade your addiction. Become addicted to Jesus. That's when your life changes. Period. I traded the addictions that I had for an addiction to Christ. And those of you that know what an addiction feels like, an addictive personality, hey, how you doing? I've got it. But once you get to that point where you can't get enough of Him, that's when you see your life change. Get in your Bible. Start in Romans. Go down the Romans road. If you don't know it, Google it. Or Jackson can go through it in the video. But yeah. And if you need anything, reach out. Jackson and I'll pray for you.
Thank you for being here. Go in peace. And remember, God is always there. All you have to do is listen. I love y'all. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching my video. Please go and like it, as well as subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell for more videos every Wednesday. Love y'all.